Girlfriend, are you struggling with irritable bowel syndrome? Well, we are going to talk to you today about how you can enjoy life above and beyond the flare ups. So we will see you on the other side. Hey there, Susan. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing great, Ingafay. How are you?
Oh, I am super excited to have you here talking about irritable bowel syndrome flare ups and how we can enjoy life above and beyond them. But before we get into that, girl, we want to know a little bit more about you, who you are, who you serve, and how you serve them.
Well, I am a retired teacher, also has worked in business, retired about 5 years ago. Never dreaming I would ever have my own digestive health coaching business, but as a lifelong irritable bowel syndrome sufferer, I decided to study with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition back in 2023, a year-long program.
Okay.
And until about a month before graduation, I decided, why not pay this forward and learn to help other people who might be in the same boat that I'm in and don't know what to do or where to get help, because there is help out there.
Awesome. So that sounds like an interesting journey. So you had it yourself, and as a result of having it yourself, you wanted to help others go through it.
That's right. And there is no medical cure for it. In fact, the medical community, I don't think sometimes recognizes it as a real disease. So a goal I have in the long term is to make doctors not just treat the symptoms, but look for the root causes as well.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, how is irritable bowel syndrome different from Crohn's?
Well, Crohn's is an inflammatory bowel disease. It's under that umbrella, along with ulcerative colitis. There it is.
Okay.
I had to think about that for a minute. Yes, both Crohn's and the ulcerative colitis are under the umbrella for inflammatory bowel disease. And that actually does show up on a colonoscopy or other tests that doctors do, which is out of the scope of my practice. So irritable bowel is an intestinal disorder, but it's completely different from the others. But the interesting thing is a lot of the symptoms are the same. They mimic each other.
Interesting. So is that what folks do, is they go in and they get their a colonoscopy to detect it, or how do they find out that it's actually
irritable bowel syndrome doesn't show up on a colonoscopy at all.
Okay.
In fact, my colonoscopies have always been clean. Nothing shows up. So irritable bowel syndrome is an elimination diagnosis. When nothing else shows up and they can't find anything else wrong, they tend to slap that label on you.
Interesting.
And say you have IBS, which is the abbreviation for it.
Yeah. Well, I know here we're all about self-care. So when it comes to handling this, is it a lot about nutrition and what people can and can't eat? How do they regulate their symptoms?
Well, I used to think, as many people do, that irritable bowel syndrome is all about food and what you eat. But I found out since, by studying and doing my own research, that is not the case. There are many, many different factors. There's stress, there's your sleep, there's how much movement or exercise you get in your daily life. And food is a big factor, yes, but it's not the only one.
Okay. So what are some of the pain points that people experience when they have irritable bowel syndrome?
Abdominal pain, embarrassing gas that goes with that pain. You could be a person that has irritable bowel syndrome D, which is diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome C, constipation, irritable bowel syndrome M, the mixed, which is a combination of both. Or you could have irritable bowel syndrome U, which is undefined. So there's no one-size-fits-all approach to any of this. And so, because everybody is different. The term I learned at IIN was bio-individual.
Okay. So what is IIN? You mentioned that acronym.
Institute for Integrative Nutrition.
Okay. Wonderful. So then with that said, how do you help people when they have this issue then?
Well, we have a meeting to find out what they're dealing with. They tell me what their main pain points are. we worked collaboratively. We don't ask yes or no questions. We ask in-depth questions to help them find out what their goals are and what they want the outcome to be. Like, what do you want to happen if you chose to have a coach help you? What would be the outcome? What do you want to see? How do you want to feel better?
Okay, awesome. So can you give us, do you have any stories of some of the clients that you've helped in the past, and how they were when they first started working with you compared to what they're going through as a result of coaching with you?
Yes, I have one that is a vegetarian.
Okay.
So she's a little bit limited in what she eats, although there's a lot more you can eat now. She's very thin.
Okay.
She always says her belly hurts. She did say that her belly hurt. That was her main thing after she ate certain things. Interestingly enough, she did not have a dairy sensitivity, like a lot of people with IBS do. I myself have a dairy sensitivity, but not everybody does. So she wanted to know how she could nourish herself, still being a vegetarian,
right,
but not lose any more weight, to keep her bone health healthy, and that won't bother her belly. So we did a lot of research and trial and error. I had her keep a food diary,
right,
for several weeks, writing down each meal. What did you eat? What were you doing when you were eating? Were you just eating, or were you working? Were you on the go? What were you doing? Were you driving? Anything. A lot of people eat doing different things. It's amazing what you find out. So you write it down, what you were doing, what time of the day it was, what did you eat, and how did you feel several hours after you ate it? Because a lot of times irritable bowel doesn't come on right away, although it can. But usually it's several hours. Sometimes what you're eating doesn't bother you at all. Then there could be a week later you eat the same thing and it does.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to this. There's a lot more than people realize to all of this.
Interesting. Now, we talked about the diet, but I know before you were saying that it's not just the diet, it's, the stress level, it's their activity level. What kind of things was she an active person? Was she having, going through some kind of stressful situation that could have caused her irritable bowel syndrome symptoms to come on? Can you share?
Yeah, well, she retired, and her husband moved to a new city and a new house, all kind of around the same time. So that definitely was a factor. She is very active on her feet, she walks a lot. I got her to get interested in some swimming activities during the warmer months.
Right.
That she really liked. So she is an active person. She's also very, very busy. She's not one of these people that gets a lot of sitting down and relaxing time. So that was another factor where we came up with some activities she could do that were by herself or just doing nothing. Having a day where you just sit and read a book for a couple of hours, have a cup of tea, just sit and look at nature out on your patio, because they have a lake in back of their house. Do that. It's just kind of almost like a meditating and relaxing and just breathing and not worrying about what you're going to be doing 2 hours from now.
Okay. So you also had mentioned that she was rather thin. Did you guys talk about anything that would help her gain more weight, or was that even a topic of discussion?
Well, that's a little bit out of the scope of my practice. So I did also suggest that she see a dietitian, because they deal more with the food aspect. They deal almost exclusively with the food aspect. They don't really bring in the sleep, the exercise, the stress reduction, all of that. So they can actually prescribe a diet. A health coach cannot prescribe a diet, but they can suggest certain foods and recipes.
Okay. So then when it comes to your scope of help is centered around, I guess, what is it centered around based on that? Sounds like what we were just talking about was outside of your scope.
I am not a substitute for a medical doctor or a registered dietitian or nutritionist.
Okay.
I am an addition to that.
Okay.
So I always recommend that people go and see their doctor first to actually get a diagnosis, because I cannot diagnose.
Okay. Okay. So when you're coaching them, you're coaching them as a person that has experienced what they have experienced and then can empathize with them. Is that
Yes, because what they're experiencing might be different from what I've experienced or what someone else has experienced. But since I have the disease, it can be in remission for months and months or even years. I can empathize with them. I know what they're going through. You know, they're afraid to leave the house because they need to know where every bathroom is, or they're afraid of a toileting accident if they're driving in the car, or they all of a sudden they're going somewhere and oops, I have to find a bathroom. I understand all of these things. All of these things have happened to me. I get it. You're going to work. You know, you don't want to eat breakfast before you leave because you're afraid you'll have to stop and go to the bathroom.
okay? Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So you talked about that one client. She was a vegetarian. Have you had anyone that is not a vegetarian that may have had similar symptoms that you can tell us about? It'd be a different scenario for those that are watching and are trying to understand and see how you could help them in their.
I haven't had all that many clients yet because I'm a relatively new coach. But I have talked with people that eat everything. They're not vegan, they're not vegetarian. They eat from all of the food groups. You know, the meats, dairies, vegetables, fruits, all of those things. And yes, and a lot of them are experiencing the major symptoms. You know, the abdominal pain, the terrible trapped gas that they can't get rid of. That's a big one also. The diarrhea, the constipation, combination of both. They're scared to go out to eat with their friends. They're jealous of their friends because their friends can eat whatever they want and they don't feel sick afterwards. That's another factor. They're canceling plans because they're afraid of what their friends or family will think. A lot of people that don't experience these symptoms don't understand what it feels like.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's why I was asking you the question. So you said you had the vegetarian client. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience?
With IBS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my experience, this started probably when I was a teenager. It also, hormones have a lot to do with it too. Like your menstrual cycle, you can actually have worse symptoms during that time when you're going through all of that. It can get better, yes. So my experience, yes, it did get worse for me when I was going through a menstrual cycle. I could go weeks without having any symptoms, and then I would eat something that would trigger it. And back then, I didn't know there was any help for this. Doctors were no help. Gastroenterologists were no help. Well, we can't find anything wrong. So I just resigned myself to the fact that I'd have to live with this for the rest of my life. But thankfully, that is not the case. You do not have to live with this for the rest of your life. There is help for this.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, I'm sure somebody's out there that's what they wanted to hear. Was that hope that they can live above and beyond this, and like you said initially when we first started, that they can enjoy their life without having fear of having these flare-ups. Even if something caused them a flare-up in the past, that it may not cause them a flare-up in the future because they are working with you and you're working with them to work through those issues.
Right. They don't have to go it alone like I did.
Right.
They have me every step of the way, or whoever they choose. They have their coach every step of the way.
Cool. So typically, how do you work with people? Do you work with them just for a period of time, or is it certain periods, like maybe a 3-month period, a 6-month period, or how do you typically work with folks?
Well, I have a 12-week signature program. It doesn't have to be every week that we meet. Usually I suggest every 2 weeks because that gives the client a chance to implement what we came up with, their homework, so to speak, what they're going to be doing, what they're going to be trying, how it's working, what's not working, how we can tweak that to make it work or try something different. So I'm also, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm also virtually, so I can work with anybody in the world, any time zone. I'm an early riser. So I work with people. I also give them a choice. They can do a 6-week program. They can do session by session if they like to. So I like to give people choices, so they have different programs they can choose from.
Okay, so that sounds great. So do you work, initially we were talking about women. Are you just working with women, or do you work with men as well?
Well, right now, I narrowed down my niche to just women, because women tend to experience this more than men do. But I'm not adverse to working with a gentleman who needs my help. I'm definitely open to that.
Right. And then the women that you work with, are they in a certain age range, or is it, just tell us about the women that you're working with.
Usually it's somebody probably that's working already, that's busy in their life, that has other responsibilities besides, a heavy career, that have families, that might even be single parents. So they're probably in their 30s and above. But I'm also not leaving out people that might be younger than that would need my help. I'm open to that too.
Okay. So then that means that if a mom is watching this and her teenage daughter is complaining about her stomach hurting after she eats, that you guys could talk and possibly, after she sees her medical doctor, because like you said initially,
But I don't work with anybody under the age of 18 because they're minors. So if I did do that, their parent would always have to be present the entire time.
Okay. So that lets us know that it's sounds like some people that are above 18 and up, based off of what you have just shared with us. So it could be a student or a professional woman that is going through this, that has been diagnosed by a doctor that she actually has irritable bowel syndrome, and is looking for a partnership with a irritable bowel coach that will help them walk through their experience and come up with some tricks and tips on how to actually regulate their symptoms, and some things that they've done in the past to soothe the symptoms that they're having.
I always ask people in my market research calls, what have you tried that hasn't worked? What have you tried that has worked? How long did it work for? What else have you done? And there are times when people say, well, I haven't done anything because I don't know what to do.
Right. Awesome. So Susan, if someone is watching this and they would wanted to get in contact with you, how could they do that?
They can go to LinkedIn or my Instagram profile under Susan Slow's Your Digestive Health Coach. Okay. You can also go to my website, www.yourdigestivehealthcoach.net. There is a button on there as well to book a free, no strings, 30-minute consultation or discovery call with me. And if they don't choose to work with me, they still get to talk to somebody who can empathize with them and give them some suggestions. At best, they choose to work with somebody who really has experienced this and can help them to get that freedom and that joy back in their life.
Awesome. Well, you guys, you heard her. She will put all of that information, what she just shared, down in the description and the show notes, so you don't have to worry about writing that down. Also, if you're watching this and you have questions, by all means, make sure that you comment down inside the video, so we can know what your questions are, and I can pass those questions on to Susan so she can answer them. And as always, thanks for watching, and we're super excited to share more of these type of interviews with you. If you have any other issues that you would like us to find experts on, by all means, comment that in the comments below. And thanks for watching, and bye for now.